if you don't want to be recorded, as long as you're not speaking, you won't be on the screen. So, but if you want to be on the safe side and want to turn off your camera, you can do that too if you just don't want to be in the recording. I think that is everything. Oh, one more thing is that we do ask, because some of us find the chat feature distracting, the text chat, we do ask that you hold your chats and your texts until the end of the reading. We will have an opportunity at the very end after all 3 readers to discuss and ask questions and all that sort of thing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy Story, who is our MC for the evening. And Sandy, you need to unmute yourself.
Thanks for coming, everybody. It's great to see everybody here. It's going to be a good evening of poetry. I'm really looking forward to it myself. As Susanna said, I'm Sandy Story. Susanna and I are both members of Jamaica Pond Poets. I'm the co-director. Dorothy Darrafield's the director of Chapter and Verse, which Jamaica Pond Poets sponsors. And it's called a literary reading series because sometimes we do prose. Tonight we're doing all poetry, but sometimes we do. And one thing Jamaica Pond Poets does is purchase the most recent book from all of our readers, and we donate them to the Jamaica Plain branch of the library. And there's a local poets section in that library. We're grateful to the Boston Public Library for taking the books because some libraries don't or won't. Tonight we have 3 readers as is usual, and we're just going to go in alphabetical order in the reading. It's the easiest way to figure it out. The first reader, therefore, will be Sam Cha. Sam Cha is from Korea. He earned an MFA at UMass Boston. A 2017 recipient of the St. Baltos Club Emerging Artist Prize, his work has appeared in Apartment, Assay, Best New Poets 2016, Boston Review, Diagram, Memorious, and Missouri Review. His chapbook, American Carnage, was published by Portable Press at Yo-Yo Labs in 2018. His full-length collection of cross-genre work, The Yellow Book, was published by Pank Books in 2020. Sam lives and writes in Cambridge, Mass. And to purchase his book or anybody else's, we've posted in the chat how to do that, and I'll repost from time to time. So welcome, please, Sam Cha, our first reader.
Thank you so much. Just one little correction. That first journal in my bio, it is not a abbreviation. It is merely the word ACT. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's run by a couple of dear friends of mine who were actually the first people to publish me. So I feel that it is important that we get it right. Yeah. So.
Are they local?
Occasionally. Right now they are not. But yes. I think they intend to come back to Boston. This one was originally published in Diagram, and I can't quite remember when. Sometime before everything happened, probably around 2013. So, but I'm in a sort of pre-pandemic mood right now, so let's go for it. Word problem. Feathers. Are you outraged sometimes that there is no word for each thing? That the world presses into you in each moment and you can't accept it, can't make it yours alone, can't make it stay. That at one moment There's light and the pressure of light on your skin and the movement of leaves and the movement of sparrows. And there is the single feather falling, and there are the changing shadows of cars, and there are the shingles on the roof of the house that has seen 200 years. And there are the 4 children walking hand in hand who have seen 4 years. And there's a man strapping his hurdy-gurdy and the movement of legs, and the changing reflections of the people on the map. And there's the yellow triangle of the patio umbrella and red shoes. And there's the woman folding her newspaper, the hard key under your finger, the black stripes of branches, the slow saunter of a drunk, and there are veins on his nose. They're like the veins of your swimming instructor from 20 years ago, who is surely dead or dying and far away. And there's the ocean. And there are the waves on the ocean, and each of them moving and falling, and nobody sees them except satellites and Google. And none of it will stay. And the world is vast and tiny, and each speck of dust tumbling here, tickling against your nostrils, is ash from some great fire that burned lonely in the dark as the devil or God. And each brick and each wall was heated in fire until the grains of clay fused and ran, and the stuff of the mortar holding them together grew once in shells in a warm sea far away, and the gravity that makes each of them want to fall ripples outwards endlessly in time. What are you equal to? Not the clay, not the bricks, not the world. Have you earned the feather, that dappled thing? Can you take it home? This one's from my book. It's called From Sickness. Yellow, he says through the mic. His ancestors were Japanese and I'm Korean, which everywhere else in the world usually means we hate each other. But here we are in this American room full of American poets. And we are American poets too, except no one else looks like us. No one else is thinking of Kipling. How in his children's tale, the perfect, gentle Norman knight tells the tale of his encounter with a yellow man. Yellow not from sickness, but from nature. Nobody else highlit by yellow, which amplifies through the wires, washes through the room with its rolling wail back of sound. The high, clean yell and the dull oh of surprise, like a knuckle in the gut. Yellow washing over me like the smell in the back of the Lucky Star bus in August. Yellow holding me there suspended between Chinatowns, between South Station and Canal Street. My yellow skin, he says. But he's not yellow, is he? I'm looking right at him, not yellow like a lemon or yellow like in the toilet when you're dehydrated or yellow like The Simpsons or yellow like popcorn butter or yellow like a banana or yellow like a Twinkie or yellow like the sun or yellow like a cab or yellow like a taxidermied tiger or yellow like Donald Trump's hair or yellow like cowardice or yellow like wallpaper or yellow like a streak of fat or yellow like nicotine stains or yellow like a fading bruise. Is that what he sees when he looks in the mirror? Frantz Fanon. I become aware of my uniform. I had not seen it. It is indeed ugly. Peril yellow. inscrutable menace, yellow, cunning, yellow, fifth column, yellow, fecund, yellow, geisha, yellow, irredeemably lazy, yellow, opium, yellow, unchanging, yellow, Buddha, yellow, wake up, yellow, go to sleep, yellow, co-write a book with Tess Gallagher, yellow, born in an internment camp, yellow, parents sent there because their neighbors looked at them and saw yellow, parents retroactively posthumously yellowed racism like Kafka creating its own lineage, and I am in it now, Larry Matsuda. I have always been in the yellow with you, forced into the same skin, gulped down by yellow. Jonah's in the belly of a ridiculous Leviathan, and I should know better. And I'm sorry. But to be perfectly honest, racists like to say they're just being honest, and I'm no exception. I hate us a little bit for it. Also from the book, this one's called Sundance, and it's a good follow-up to that one. Once I was like you, a mere person. There was one of me. Then yellow made me more. Many. There were so many of me, and they were all me. What fun. I was a hive, a chorus, singing I, compound-eyed, I nod your radios, spat out a pulp of transistors, a bolus of diodes, licked diabolical, chewed Fu Manchu mustache mandible. I lived in filth and remodeled a Model T, the model of a modern model minority, and bitter, bitter tea. We drank it with great cerements. We drank till we were foxed and foxconn and grave. I used to be afraid of time, but now I know I'm yellow. Hello, I am that I am, eternal, an electric disturbance. I suffuse the day. That was an American sonnet. I'm gonna read an American sonnet about American sonnets. So this one is called Motherfuckers Talking Shit About American Sonnets. I know what you want, to waggle your tongue and the old ferment, the pure Elizabethan product, 100 proof, Garen fucking tea to make you go buck wild, flushed, knock-kneed, toe-curled, blank-eyed, blank-versed, brain all snow white, till you spill your thin blank mange down your tidy whities and come back to yourself. I get it. Sometimes I'd also like to forget that I'm no longer young, but the sonnet doesn't belong to you. There's nothing to own. Not a spit of land nor spit curl of rivulet for your chicken wire, your snares, your chicken shit sneers. Where's the rhyme scheme? Who cares? Not Shakespeare, not Keats, not Drayton, not Donne. It's not your lawn. Yawn. Stop yelling. Be done. This is another American sonnet. Fuck the killer's name. All 7 syllables. 2.5 generic trochees. First, middle, and last. Stubby and dull as the blade of a gas station hunting knife. Dissolve its cheap pattern weld of history. Burn the shop-worn Norman French. Off the minor Old Testament prophet. Snap the Anglo-Saxon rat-tail tang. Toss the handle in the trash. Cart off the trash to a landfill. surrounded by national forests. Let it sit there, undigested, stewing in methane and the meat juices of 1,000 Big Macs. Let the last starving timber wolf mistake it for a bone. Let it carry it off to the forest and choke. Let the forests burn in wildfires. Let the ashes sift into the feed trenches of factory farms, the Pepto-Bismol muck of hog lagoons. Let the people, unknowing, eat of the ashes of the name. That was about the Atlanta shootings. I don't know if it's obvious, but it is what it was about. I have two more, I think. How am I doing on time?
You're doing pretty
Let's-
great. Good. You got about 5-ish minutes, so 2 more is probably about right.
Okay. All right. This one is rough. I haven't really read it before. It just sort of popped up on my screen, and I took it for a sign. So it's from last year, apparently. Climate conference with sea stars and wildfires. There was a hole in the sky, and everybody was talking about it. Everybody, as they sipped their Aperol, as the ice melted in the cocktail shakers. It was a great conversation. Everyone agreed, while the arms of the leather star twisted, stretched, tore, dragged themselves away. While the arms of the striped sun star twisted, stretched, tore, dragged themselves away. While the arms of the rainbow star twisted, stretched, tore, dragged themselves away. While the arms of the blood star twisted, stretched, tore, dragged themselves away. While the arms of the ochre star twisted, stretched, tore, dragged themselves away. While the arms of the sunflower star twisted, stretched, tore, dragged themselves away. Like the man who, alone one night, decides to get high. And then when he gets high, feels like he's dying, and queasy and circle-brained. Torso bobbing up and down, sits on the shitter and listens for the slowing of his heart. Has it stopped yet? Has it stopped? Did it skip, skip, skip? Goodbye. Goodbye to this body. Goodbye to the skin, to the mysterious effusions of the liver and pancreas, to the bitter machinery of the gallbladder. Goodbye, he says to himself, frantically rubbing one out. Goodbye, goodbye, oh good, good, oh good, oh, bye. And by day, a pillar of smoke, a pillar and another filling first the horizon, then blotting it out. And by night, a pillar of fire, a pillar and another filling first the edge of the sky and then erasing the night. Which way out of the all too human world? Lord, where do we go? And I'm gonna leave you not on that note, but on a slightly more hopeful note. So I'm gonna read this one, which is called An Essay on Terry Pratchett. It is widely acknowledged that there are two kinds of writers, the living and the dead. This is false. Look, given time, a writer will always die. Once dead, they will spend infinitely more time dead than they did alive. A living writer is therefore only infinitesimally alive. In other words, they're already dead. Since dead writers are dead and living writers are also dead, all writers are dead. To write is therefore to die, but you, the reader, because you are the reader, are always alive. If you die, you are by definition not a reader. This is the immortality afforded by literature. It is not given to the writer, as so many writers have wrongly supposed. It is given to the reader, and then only so long as they are a reader. It will not prevent somebody who has been a reader from dying. But while you are a reader, you are deathless because you are reading. Be kind then, reader. You are alive because I am dead. Thank you, everyone.
Woo!
Thank you so much, Sam. Riveting. Our next reader is Gloria Minda. She's the editor of Cervena Barba Press, and she's the author of 6 poetry collections, 3 chapbooks, and a children's book. Her poems have been published and translated into 11 languages. Her recent book, Ash, published by Glassflyer Press, won the International Impact Award, the New York City Big Book Award, and the Firebird Speak Up Talk Radio Award. Ash has also been translated into Serbian and Montenegrin and published in Serbia. Gloria was the poet laureate in Somerville, Mass. In 2017 and 2018. Please welcome Gloria Minda.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And I can't help the interference. It's one of those nights. So if it bothers you too much, close your eyes and listen to the poems. I'm going to start out with a new poem, and it's called Sometimes. Sometimes even the wind gets tired. Maybe today it doesn't want to blow. Maybe today the earth would like to stop spinning. Maybe gravity would like to let go. Imagine everything starting to drift into space. People and objects not mattering anymore. A stampede of floating humans surrounded by junk. Sometimes I would like to forget all the wars. Maybe someday they will stop. Maybe someday there will be no buttons to push, no nuclear missiles to end all. Maybe someday I will smile again and the warm air will be just warm, no fire to burn us to ash. Maybe someday I will see you again, standing in your kitchen, laughing with a drink. Maybe. This next poem was published in an anthology about New York City, and it's called Night and Day. No sky, grayness and skyscrapers tower over me like robots about to take my life. Little windows, their eyes searching. What is it about this city that draws me into it? Maybe it's the artistic flair or the way life resurrects every day. We sit at the White Horse having beer, thinking of Dylan Thomas. His ghost gives us words we need. Drunk, we stagger home to our shoebox apartment. We no longer say anything. Now, 5 a.m. and the garbage trucks are out, constant car horns, but I don't hear any noise. You sleep soundly, nearly time to start all over again. The door to my brick building has the truth behind it. The wind rattles windows. I leave, flag down a yellow cab. Some sunbeams dart all over the roads, around buildings, through alleyways and down avenues. A city spinning, waking me up daily with its hum. And this next poem is called Earth. The earth is up to it again, rotating into darkness, no memory of daylight. The sea opens its mouth, waves crash on the shore. Darkness is always slippery, daylight solid. The heart knows the boundaries of both. There is always another side to things. Sometimes we belong to each, not sure what direction to take. Everyone is wet and cold. Dryness will not happen without a towel. Sometimes you have to approach things differently, fall in love with the edge. And I'd like to read something mindless. This is a true story. I went to a workshop, but I didn't read the flyer close enough. And it turned out it was really earthy, crunchy meditation. And I'm not a person that can meditate. And so I wrote this, and it's called Breathe. Breathe, she says. Now get up and stretch. Think about what is important to you. Breathe, she says. Don't think, she says. Be one with the earth. Feel your footsteps on the soil. Let's talk, she says. Now, how do you feel? Don't you just love this? Getting in touch with yourself. Put your hand on your chest, she says. Feel your heartbeat. You are alive. Can you feel death creeping up, she says. Rejoice. You must feel one thing for the other. I can't stand this, I think. Just so boring, I feel. I am one with the earth every day. I wake up. I don't need you to tell me, I say. Don't need to be told to breathe or that death is inevitable. What I need, what is important to me, is for you to shut up. And now I will go to Ash, and this is it. I don't know if you can see it. And everybody tells me their problems, bad relationships mostly. And believe it or not, it's been more men than women. And I collected things over the years from, my clients. People on the street always seem to stop me and tell me about their bad relationships. And I thought, I just can't write about that. It'd be kind of boring. They all sound the same. So I added fire and ash and images and things like that. And I'm going to start out with plastic. And the first 3 stanzas are true. And the 4th stanza is made up. X was only 2 months sober, and he was telling everyone he had a date. Despite being told to concentrate on his sobriety and not women, he would not listen. The next day, he said they went out for dinner. Afterwards, she invited him to her place for coffee. When they walked into her apartment, there were dolls sitting at the kitchen table, on the couch, in the bedroom, and even on the toilet. Doll eyes watching him, creepy. He left. We all teased him and said he should have kissed a doll. There would be no heart beating. All he would have to do is keep his lips closed. Then there would be no feeling. 2. X was sitting in the car with his date, about ready to go to dinner, when she said, "Wait, I have to wrap my head up in tinfoil. It is important for me to communicate with the aliens." X looked at her in disbelief. He took the tinfoil box from her and wrapped his head up with it, waiting for a miracle. 3. It has been a while since X went out on a date. He sat in the car with her as she smacked her gum and then stuck the chewing gum on the dashboard. Then she dug out her lipstick from her purse. X was still focusing on her gum on the dashboard. He looked around her car more closely and saw gum stuck all over the place. He felt a knot in his stomach and was disgusted, got out of the car without saying a word. About a block later, as he was thinking, he reached in his pocket and unwrapped a piece of gum and chewed. 4. The sirens were going off. X knew it was time to get out. His heart was beating quickly. X was scared he would not make it. Heavy black smoke was filling the apartment up. He jumped and realized it was just a dream. Next to him was a woman, young and very pretty. His heart smoldered. He thought, what did I do to deserve such a thing? Just then, a fireman knocked down the door and revived him. There was no girl, just a fire hose through the broken window. Sometimes, X, a flame is just a flame. Protected. Inside the house was his life, protected by a roof. By the time the fireman got there, it was gone. He sifts through what remains, eyes sunk, hands asleep, brain idle for hours. The man surfaces his heart. He carries it away delicately. It still beats and he breathes, asking, how much sorrow can this heart take? There is never an answer. Ashes. Bury me into your heart. Don't forget, even when you distribute my ashes, embers of arms will flow out into the wind. What will I attach to? The rain will push my ashes to the ground, mixing them with mud. Stepped on, maybe someone will bring me home on their shoe, wipe the mud off with a rag, throw it away, then off to the dumps. This is all I am, garbage, to be buried again into non-existence. There is a chance I will be recycled. Later, I could be part of that doll your child embraces. I happen to love true crime, reading about serial killers, watching forensics on TV, documentaries, anything I can get my hands on. And with bad relationships, sometimes there is murder. So this poem was inspired by that, and it's called Baked. With a rolling pin in my hand, I roll your heart out flat, stop it from beating. The redness of blood turns to wax, sticky while wet. I mix it with flour for consistency. Mind you, you never had this. Skin is added for extra flavor. After cutting up a few veins, my creation is ready to bake. Once out of the oven, all crisp, all beautiful, the door is opened and I throw it out for the birds. Peck away, my friends. Eventually, all men get flown. And I grew up with holy water all the time, arriving at the house, blessed rosaries because Pope John the 23rd is my relative. And my great aunt gave me a frame with little jewels around it of a saint. And she said I could never put it in a drawer. And I still have it. And it's on my Day of the Dead altar. And so these next two poems, they were inspired by that. What if God is strict? I am looking for the right flesh with no bleeding, my voice free hanging from the crucifix, passion from these lips igniting sins to clot my mouth. Crucifixes break every day, are shoved into a drawer, collect dust in a thrift shop. Sometimes Jesus becomes so dusty that cleaning him up is a problem. The dust too thick to let him resurrect. When he does, he sneezes. Maybe Jesus will develop an allergy, a miracle of life. The crosses. We have broken crosses in our drawer. Why are they still here? It is a sin to throw out the symbol of Christ. We would fall from grace. The sacraments received on Sunday would be for nothing. So here they are, buried by papers, screws, ink pens, pennies, a few rubber bands. How sad, Christ defending himself from junk. Where is his heart? Take the crosses out. Let him breathe. Put the pieces in every room out in the open, each one giving testimony to your life. Escape. Trying to escape, but I am surrounded by flat land, no place to go. If I stand behind the tree, you will find me. Behind the barn, you will find me. Behind the house, you will find me. You would not expect me to hide down by the Illinois River or in the caves of Starved Rock. I will be there until my body decays. I will become a beautiful plant. When you walk past, I will give you a rash. And the last two poems I will read are again inspired by serial killers and true crime. And the first stanza is the man. The second stanza is the woman. And this is called J/M. Jay loved fake names. He was a burnt out novelist, wrote too many stories about horrific blind dates. He was a wild man, too many plastic bags in his kitchen. He would kill you, burn you, pretending it was love. M, an elementary teacher, went out with Jay. She thought he was popular, would bring her wealth. M was wrong. Her fate lay at the water's edge, an alligator. And the last one is called R/N. R liked tea in the afternoon before he went fishing. Sometimes the crisp air mortified him. He would sit and build a fire. One by one, he took the worms and burnt them. He was grateful for such beauty. N thought she could allure him to stay home in fishnet stockings. It never worked. She fell into this routine daily. The police later found her dead, not much left on top of a wood pile with fishnet stockings on the ground. I guess R was paying attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria. I got so wrapped up in the poetry, I forgot I had another reader to announce. Here we go. And certainly last but not least is Peter Schmitt. He's the author of 6 collections of poems, including Goodbye Apostrophe from Regal House 2020. He's also the editor of his late father's remembrance, Pan Am Air Ferries, a World War II aviation memoir, forthcoming in 2022 from McFarland. He's the recipient of the Julia Peterkin Award, the Lavin Award from the Academy of American Poets, the Discovery the Nation Prize, and grants from the Florida Arts Council and Ingram Merrill Foundation. His poems have appeared in many leading journals and are widely anthologized. He lives and teaches in his hometown of Miami, Florida. And we know where we can get the recent books. It's a good reminder that's in the chat if anybody wants to go there after the readings. Peter, Welcome.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it. And special thanks to Dorothy and Susanna, the Jamaica Pond Poets. It's a pleasure to be reading tonight with Gloria and Sam. Tonight, I'm going to be reading half a dozen poems or so. I think I'll start off with 3 poems from my most recent book, Goodbye Apostrophe. Right here. And then I think I'll read maybe 1 poem each from my previous full-length collections. This first poem is called Fat Kid. 300 pounds in 7th grade and growing, fattest kid in school. Sit in the horn section, nearly blocked my view of our director from where I labored, back row, on tenor sax. I could see his neck going pink, sweat slipping down dizzy Gillespie cheeks, eyes squinting as his stubby fingers worked the keys. We lived 2 blocks apart. The bus ejected us at the same stop. Slight, skinny me, big Sid. That first week of school, we all saw it coming. And when some tall, long-haired jerk shoved Sydney in the dirt, a circle rapidly formed, and the coaches vanished like Darwinians, allowing natural selection to run its course. All Sid could do was raise his fists, but by then his glasses were broken, and he was bleeding and crying, and the crowd jeering. Tears stung my eyes, but I let no one see them. After that single vicious beating, some kind of equilibrium had been restored, a necessary order imposed, which all understood. Sid had to pay for his weight with a pummeling. It was that simple. And once endured, he earned a grudging respect. His tormentor, now that he had filled his function for us, meanwhile was relegated to pariah and dropped out in early spring. And so Sydney survived. The taunts continued, but with lower volume, less frequency. We learned our instruments. We rode the bus. His mother, who might have outweighed her son, kept to the cool back rooms of their dark house. But she had to be glad to see him with friends, even ones like me, as I would kid him too, once in a while. And he would punch me hard in the arm because it wasn't all right. And he'd make damn sure at least somebody knew. Here's the title poem from the newest book. This is called Goodbye Apostrophe. Goodbye Apostrophe. You were barely hanging on at the top of the line by one curled fingertip. And now it appears you've fallen from the keypads of all the smartest phones. Forgive my possessiveness toward you. Goodbye turn signal, hiding behind the steering wheel. Whatever indestructible composite you're made of, no one in this town seems to need you anymore. I don't know which way to go without you. Goodbye, incandescent light bulb. You took up all my energy, but these sinuous newcomers lack your warmth, your hominess. When the rare idea comes to me now, what flashes on above my head? Goodbye, Mom. When I went to pick up your ashes today, a squirrel darted beneath my car, then came out the other side, unscathed, as if there weren't room in the world for one more death, however small. My light, my direction, mine. Goodbye. And, a few weeks after my mom passed away, I was just scribbling down these little tributes to these things that were vanishing, like punctuation, especially especially online. Um, Courtesy in Miami traffic, not actually that there's ever been any courtesy in Miami traffic, but it was whatever there was left was going rapidly. Light bulbs, things like that. And only then, after a bit of this, did it occur to me that what I was really doing the entire time was trying to write an elegy for my mother, but it didn't sink in for a while. You know, you hope as a poet that eventually what you're actually writing about will come to you. And finally it did in that particular case. One more from the newest collection. Because you are the Jamaica Pond Poets, I thought I'd read a Boston poem. Some of you may recognize the epigraph, which is a date, October 27th, 2004. That, of course, is the date that the Red Sox ended the so-called curse of the Bambino, winning their first World Series, and I think it was 86 years. Some of this poem is set then in St. Louis, where, of course, that victory occurred. And some of the poem is set in Amherst, Massachusetts. But it just seemed appropriate to be reading this also today, I think, is the start of the new season. This poem is called Emily Dickinson and the Boston Red Sox. In her white cap with the scarlet bee, she watches the small color TV, no flat screen, plasma, or LCD for her, she would have you know. And she much admires the home team's jerseys and jackets, thinking, what a lovely bird, the cardinal. At her feeder, that blur of passion. And how lucky, in a way, a strange way, they will be now, those fans west of here, the trophy so close. Unlike all those poor Yankee stalwarts, year after year, their routine champagne and ticker tape, how truly deprived, not knowing what desire means. In fact, she's traveled to the city only once, when she had that pesky eye malady and went in to see specialists at the infirmary. But first came the cab ride, her kindly driver, straight to Fenway and the Green Monster, a name she wishes keenly she'd coined herself for spring, with the trees out beyond the fences suddenly looming. And it is only envy that she feels now, eyeing the melee on the mound, the grass thinning this deep in fall, for all the dumbstruck seated there, mute, staring at the other team, her team, leaping deliriously with their improbable victory, and all of that sweet joy already slipping away so naturally. This next poem is from a collection called Renewing the Vows. You can see that. And the setting for this poem is my dad's place of business in Dania, Florida, which is right next to Fort Lauderdale. This is a poem that goes back to, well, again, the setting goes back to freshman year of college. I was just starting to write, and I was spending that winter break working at my dad's plant. This is called Packing Plant. They must have thought I was spying on them, my father's employees in the packing plant. Me, the boss's kid, scribbling during breaks inside the lattice cab of a forklift. How could I tell them those notes were poetry? I could barely convince myself. But still, I filled the pages of the little pad while the place roared around me. Trucks backing in, dirt from the field still caked in their treads, washes and steam, groan of conveyor belts, the shouts, the clatter of cans rattling down a chute, hiss of boilers, and all of it echoing. But whatever I found the concentration to write about, it was never the plant or its people. Not the ladies on the line in their yellow rubber boots and gloves, hairnets, pulling like editors, each tomato gone soft or black or too small, shifting their weight when their hips, then knees, then backs began to ache. Not Willie Cunningham, who steered a forklift with one long black finger, who could whirl it on a Liberty dime. He'd been at it so long. Well, I couldn't even drive a car yet, banging the forks against the pallets. Willie, who in a couple of years would lose his testicles to cancer. My father visiting him in the hospital as I waited in the car. None of it seemed worth writing about, not even my own job. Trundling the emptied produce bins to storage, building them to the rafters 40 feet high. Not that, or the way the lunchtime whistle would carry like a train, shaking the beams of the little whitewashed churches down the road and bring the workers forward from the dark. And maybe I really was spying on them and just didn't know it. Too busy stacking stanzas like bins all the way to the sky until the next truck rumbled in with its load and I shifted awkwardly into gear. The next one comes from my second book called Hazard Duty. And it's got an epigraph also. This is an epigraph from the East Indian math genius named Shakuntala Devi. She was one of these math savants who would perform all over the world, doing incredible computations in her mind. For instance, she'd have an audience member call out a 6-digit number, and then somebody from the other side of the room call out another 6-digit number, and she'd give you the, she'd multiply them in her head in a second. Performing feats like that. I guess she appeared in Miami one night some years ago, and there was a write-up about her in the Miami Herald the next day. And one quote in particular from her stood out for me when she said, "If you make friends with numbers, you don't need any other friends." Well, I thought about that in my quiet 1-bedroom apartment that Saturday morning. And somehow that thought was oddly uncomforting. Somehow that was not the most reassuring thing I needed to hear at the time, but it led to this poem, which happened pretty quickly, quite a bit more quickly than most of my poems get written. So the poem is called Friends with Numbers, and here it is. They are not hard to get to know. 6 and 9 keep changing their minds. 8 cuts the most graceful figure, but sleeps for an eternity. And 7, lucky 7, takes an arrow to his heart always. 5, halfway to somewhere, only wants to patch his unicycle tire. And 4, who'd like to stand for something solid, has never had 2 feet on the ground, yet flutters gamely in the breeze like a flag. 3, for all his literary accomplishments and pretensions to immortality, is still, I can tell you, not half the man 8 is asleep or awake. 1, little 1, I know him better than all the others. These numbers, who are all my friends? Only 2, that strange smallest prime, can I count as just a passing acquaintance. Divisible by only 1 and herself, She seems on the verge yet of always coming apart. And though she eludes me, swan-like, though I'd love to know her better, still, I am fine. There are others, many. I have friends in numbers. And I'll finish up tonight. And again, let me say again, what a pleasure it's been to be reading for Jamaica Pond Poets with Gloria and Sam. I'm gonna finish up with a poem from my first collection called Country Airport. It's another poem involving music, I suppose. And it's a poem called Tin Ear. We stood at attention as she moved with a kind of Groucho shuffle down our line. Her trained music teacher's ear passing by our 10 and 11-year-old mouths, open to some song now forgotten. And as she held her momentary pause in front of me, I peered from the corner of my eye to hers and knew the truth I had suspected. In the following days, as certain of our peers disappeared at appointed hours for the chorus, something in me was already closing shop. Indeed, to this day, I still clam up for the national anthem in crowded stadiums, draw disapproving alumni stares as I smile the length of school songs, and even hum and clap through Happy Birthday, creating a diversion, all lest I send the collective pitch careening headlong into dissonance. It's only in the choice acoustics of shower and sealed car that I can finally give voice to that heart deep within me that is pure, tonally perfect music. But when the water stops running and the radio's off, I can remember that day in class when I knew for the first time that mine would be a world of words without melody, where refrain means do not join, where I'm ready to sing in a key no one has ever heard. Thank you.
Fabulous. What a great night of poetry. What a lot of wonderful new ways to look at the world, I would say. I think it's at this point, right, Susanna, that people are welcome to use the chat or to unmute yourselves and talk. If you'd like to talk to or about any of the poems and poetry, go right ahead. If you want to talk about something else, go right ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now as well.
Okay.